congratulations on your new portfolio.
Thank you very much.
We're almost at the end of the year, and just about half of the number of asylum seekers who want to admit to Canada are here. How will you make up for that backlog?
Sorry, the backlog from any particular location or just in general?
How many asylum seekers that you wanted to get in Canada?
Well, when we're dealing with asylum seekers, we're dealing with people who present themselves here. We don't necessarily stick to a rigid limit depending on the people who present as vulnerable individuals. We have obligations both under Canada's domestic laws and in international law to welcome the people who do qualify for asylum. So we set estimates based on how many people we may expect, based on anticipated traffic that could come into Canada's borders. So it's really a question of how many people end up arriving in Canada rather than us seeking to fill spaces for asylum seekers. Of course, other immigration streams would be different. I'd point out that we're on target right now or on pace to hit our target of 401,000 overall, but the situation, depending on which stream you're talking about, could be different, and asylum seekers are obviously unique given the circumstances that they may arrive with.
Over the immigration system during the COVID-19 pandemic, there have been a lot of backlogs, there's been a lot of complaints that I've been getting. Can you tell us if you have an update about how you intend to address the backlogs that are still in the system?
Yeah, look, this is a really serious issue. I think the circumstances that we're dealing with right now in Canada's immigration system are facing a once-in-a-century challenge like so many other aspects of Canadian society. The obvious challenge is that we were trying to, in some ways, hit the most aggressive immigration target in the history of Canada at the same time that the border was closed to protect the public from a public health point of view. This put us in a position where we were focusing over the past year and a half, primarily on people who were already within Canada but didn't have permanent status. Of course, the demand to come to Canada, which remains a destination of choice for people all over the world, that demand continued. So what we're seeing right now is there's an increase in the number of people who want to come to Canada compared to the spaces that may be available. So what we want to do to address the backlog is look at the levels plan that we're going to be tabling in Parliament in accordance with the timelines that are required of the government to present a plan in Parliament in the new year. But we also want to address certain systemic inefficiencies that we've seen about the application process. Canada right now largely still has a paper-based system, and we're working, I'd point out we have nearly $1 billion allocated to help modernize and digitize the immigration system, and my hope is that as different features of this more modern system come online, we're going to improve the user experience and be able to cut into the backlog that's leaving a lot of people wondering when they're going to be able to qualify for permanent status here.
Okay, but what about just people who are here, who have their permanent residency, can't get their citizenship, or other immigration documents? What about them?
So it'll depend obviously on the individual case in terms of what process the person's going to have to go through in order to qualify for their citizenship, or it depends what documents you're talking about. Citizenship in particular is a really exciting area right now. I just mentioned some of the money that we've set aside for the modernization and digitization of the system. We've actually seen the first element of this came online over the past year under really challenging circumstances when a lot of the citizenship applications and ceremonies were in a virtual context for the first time. The early feedback from the new digital citizenship application process is really good. It gives me a lot of confidence that as we move over to a more modern and digital system for other streams like spousal reunification and eventually some of the economic streams, we're going to be in a really good place to actually cut down on that backlog, improve the user experience, and give the public faith that Canada's immigration system, which remains one of the world's best, is actually going to work not just from a systemic point of view, but from a user experience point of view as well.
Thank you. No,
okay.
Thank you so much.
All good.
So, Mr. Morrice, you were denied making a statement in the House of Commons. What did you want to tell the House?
Well, I was hoping to wish my congratulations to the Speaker, and each of the party leaders each had a chance to do that. On behalf of the Green Caucus, I was hoping to do the same. Could I do that now? Would that be okay?
Yeah, go.
So these are the words I was hoping to share earlier in the House of Commons. I wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the Green Caucus, I wanted to offer my heartfelt congratulations to you on your election. Your role in this 44th Parliament is a critical one, and I know you will do it with grace and integrity. J'aimerais également commencer par remercier nos estimés collègues qui se sont présentés à ce poste. Au moment où je prends la parole, c'est la première fois que je le fais, je suis frappé par le caractère sacrée de cet espace qu'est la Chambre des communes. Ceci me rappelle que je ne suis ici, comme c'est le cas pour chacun d'entre vous, chers collègues, que grâce aux personnes de ma communauté qui m'ont accordé leur confiance. Thank you again to my neighbors across Kitchener Centre for your trust. For however long I'm given the honor to sit in this house, I hope this sense of awe is never extinguished, because with it comes a sense of responsibility to discuss constructively, to disagree without being disagreeable, and most of all, to be respectful in this place. As I speak this evening, I'm reminded of a first-time voter I met in the last days of the election campaign. She said to me, when asked by her mom why she was planning on supporting me, she said, "Because, Mike, I believe in you. I know that in turn, behind each of you stands thousands upon thousands of neighbors in your communities, each of whom believes in you and your focus on their priorities." And so I wonder if we were all to imagine these same members of our communities all standing maybe in the gallery here, if that might reduce the temptation to heckle or behave disrespectfully. For our part, let me reaffirm that the Green Caucus will continue to engage in this House in the same way the Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands and others who followed since always have, with a deep sense of reverence for this place, in the spirit of cooperation, with an interest in turning away from ideological partisanship and turning instead towards a deep respect for our democracy and our fellow parliamentarians. Alors que nous entamons cette 44e législature, je compte sur votre leadership, Monsieur le Président, avec un sentiment d'espoir quant à la façon dont nous pouvons choisir de nous conduire, et pour vos contributions à une session parlementaire qui mettra la barre haute pour un débat constructif et une collaboration respectueuse. To you again, Mr. Speaker, my most sincere congratulations. Thank you.
So can we ask you about just a news question of the day? What do you make about the latest events that are happening in the traditional territories of the Wet'suwet'en? We're seeing that land defenders, as they call themselves, are being detained by the RCMP. We're seeing journalists as well. What do you make of that? What does the response of the federal government, which of course the RCMP answers to, what do their response to this need to be?
The situation is deeply concerning to me. And this is a situation that, let's be honest, starts with building out more pipeline infrastructure. And so my call is to, as we should be across, we should be ending all new oil and gas and Coastal Link. We shouldn't be looking to obsess over exporting fracked gas. And so I would call on the BC government to move away from this pipeline, to have the RCMP withdrawn. And I'm quite concerned for not just land defenders, but journalists who are being arrested. And this is a situation that I find really concerning.
They fall under federal jurisdiction. Why aren't you making a mess? Why don't you have a message for the public safety minister today?
Well, again, this is also with the BC government. And so my interest, for those that are willing to listen, whether it's a minister in the federal government or in BC, is that we need to recognize these land defenders, to be mindful that the RCMP's presence is one that is baked into building out this pipeline infrastructure in the midst of BC communities that are in a state of emergency, in the midst of a climate crisis. And so to me, it's about priorities, and that we should instead be investing in the communities in BC who need our help the most.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Morrice.
Thank you.
All right.
You guys share your statement.
I really appreciate you all for the chance to share that. That really means a lot. Thank you.